you've got a team member who's underperforming, and it's getting to the point where you're considering letting the person go. How do you handle it in a way that's best for everybody? And before we get to that point, and it might be too late in this case, or obviously in this case, you've already let the person go, but maybe for future cases, ideally we want to try to avoid getting to that point um, where we just realize we have to let the person go, because there can certainly be that point. And as you mentioned earlier, it's in everyone's best interest, actually. You know, if we allow someone to consistently be mediocre, we're actually not helping that person, because we're helping them create the habit of mediocrity, and that's not going to serve them on the team that they're currently on. And eventually, if we decide we need to help them find another team to play on, it's not going to serve them there. They're going to show up there and be mediocre, and they'll probably get fired there. Also, being consistently mediocre is not good for our self-esteem. You know, people, even if they might seem like they don't care, nobody likes to be mediocre. I mean, we're just not wired like that as humans. So somewhere subconsciously, someone's thinking, man, I'm just really not good at my job. I'm not good at what I do, and I'm not adding value. And that can actually lead to somebody feeling depressed and having low self-esteem. So it's clearly not in anyone's best interest, to let somebody be consistently mediocre. And then, as you also mentioned, for the team, it's horrible, right? Because especially if you're having talks, you know, like you have a team meeting once a week, or maybe some sales organizations have them every day, and you're having these motivational, you know, team meetings, these huddles, right? And you're talking about excellence and achieving big goals. And every day that we let somebody show up to work as being mediocre, we're kind of telling everybody else, we're just kidding. You know, we're not really that serious about excellence here. So it's definitely something that needs to be addressed. The question is, how do we address it in a way that one can actually avoid having to let somebody go if possible? Because unless the person's not a values fit, I think in almost every case, it's better to try to keep the person. Even if they're in the wrong role, ideally, if they're a good values fit, trying to find another role for them in your organization, even if it's not on your team. So to do that, I mean, first, we need to be having regular feedback conversations about performance, and ideally allowing those to be coaching conversations and not just a one-way, here's me telling you what I'm seeing, because that is generally viewed as ineffective. In fact, Gallup has research on this, that if it's a one-way conversation, it only improves performance about 33% of the time. And 1/3 of the time, it actually has a negative impact on performance when it's just a one-way conversation. So it's very important that coaching conversations, or that conversations about performance, be coaching in nature. You know, they're framed with this idea that I want to help you hit your goals. I want to help you be the best that you can be. So let's talk about, where do you think you are? Where do you think you have rooms to grow? And the idea is you want to try to let that person lead as much of the conversation as possible. So you're asking questions. Now, if you're in a sales organization, oftentimes it's very easy. Everything's objective, right? Did you make the prescribed number of outbound calls? Did you do the tasks that are assigned to you in your CRM? Did you how many closes, you know, did you have? How many sales did you have? How many demos did you book? Whatever the metric is, it's all objective. So there's usually very little subjectivity in a sales organization. It's either you're hitting it or you didn't. And so that's where being a coach can be so helpful, is you can ask them to tell you. So, you know, how did it go this past week? What were your numbers like? Okay. And so it looks like that puts you in, you know, 10 out of 10 on the team. Why do you think this is happening? Let's look at this number. This one was 10 out of 10 on the team, you know, being the lowest score on the team. What do you think might be happening here? And so the idea is, you know, if you're coming at it from this framework of, I want to help you be the best that you can be, I want to help you hit goals, I want to help you grow, I want to help you get promoted and get pay raise and bonuses, then if the more that people feel that, the more open they are to feedback conversations, And then you can actually live that by doing a lot more asking of questions. So like, let's say, for instance, you notice a specific thing that a person's doing that you know is causing problems. You know, you could ask them, so, you know, what is it that you think is preventing you from hitting X goal of yours or X team goal, whatever, any goal that's important to them? You know, if you can tie the feedback or what they're doing to how it's going to help them achieve a goal that they have, that's the ideal situation. So if you can ask, you know, hey, what is it that you think is preventing you from hitting this goal? And you might need to ask some probing questions. You know, well, is there any part of your, you know, the way you do calls? Is there any way in the part that you prepare or do all of the behind the scenes kind of admin work? You know, and eventually you might be able to get them to say like, oh yeah, this is probably an issue, or this is something that's getting in my way, or this is something I could do better. And that's what you're looking for, is that you want to ask them questions into the I may and you might need to guide them a little bit, but you ideally you want them to say, this is what this is where I'm performing poorly, or where this is where I'd like to do better. And then you can that's what you want, because then you can say, all right, um, well, what do you think would help here? Like, what do you think would help this situation improve? And now you can even get them to come up with a solution, ideally. And again, you might need to do some guidance here. But in the dream world, and this is easier said than done, obviously, it takes practice and it takes experience, some reps of knowing which questions to ask, knowing how to guide somebody skillfully without like just giving them the answer. But in the dream world, if you can guide them to not only come up with where are they deficient, like where is it that they need to grow, and hopefully areas where they actually want to grow because you can tie it to a goal that they have that's important to them. Then on top of that, you can get them to describe meaningful actions that they can take to improve. Now you can get buy-in, right? So now you've got somebody who's identified their own area for growth. They've identified some key actions they can take to improve in that area. And then all you need to do, and this is where you really cement this perspective of serving as a coach, is say, this sounds like a good plan. What do you need from me to help make this happen? Do we need to check in on on your progresses daily? Do we need to check in three times a week, once a week, and get some agreement, some consensus on what are the things that you as the manager can be doing to help this person? So we'll start with that as the foundation. Now, let's say that you're doing the best coaching you can, and the person just isn't improving. It could just be that they don't want to be in that role. It could be they don't have the skill set to be in that role. So again, if they're a values fit, maybe you try to find them another role in your company. If that's not possible, that's when you obviously you need to start looking at, we probably need to find a different team for this person to play on. Now the time frame here is different, you know, for every team or organization, and how quickly you need to move on these things. But you know, in a sales organization, you definitely don't want somebody who's negative around. You definitely don't want someone who's consistently being mediocre. This might have to happen in a condensed time frame to give the person a chance to be coached, give them a chance to grow. And if they're not responding, then we move to the next step. The next step is to have a conversation where you say, okay, team member Anna, let's say her name is Anna, you know, we've been talking about some areas where you've identified some areas where you need to grow, and it doesn't seem like it's improving. Do you feel like you're getting everything you need from me to help you improve? And if the answer is no, then maybe the onus is on you a little bit. Maybe there's more that you could be doing. But if they agree, like, no, it's just I'm struggling. You know, you're giving me everything that I need, but I'm struggling to hit these goals. So that's when the conversation can move to an even more condensed time frame where you say, look, Anna, you know, if it's true, if you think the person is a good values fit and you'd like to keep them, then you could say, look, we'd really like to have you on the team. We don't want to have to let you go, but if we can't help you hit these goals that we have in the next X number of days or weeks, or whatever the time frame is, we're going to have to help you find a different team to play on. And it might be that that's the better fit for you. I mean, and I'll do my best if I know anyone in my network, I'll happy to refer you to somebody. Um, but before we get to that point, I have one last thing I'd like to try. And here's what I'd like you to do. So the idea, let me see, this is the practice is called the 4 pieces of paper, which I learned years ago from a colleague and a good friend named John Spence. So the idea is you ask the team member, you say, Anna, what I'd like you to do is on piece of paper number 1, I'd like you to write down something that you could do, some goal that you could hit, some big achievement that you could realize that would demonstrate to me and the leadership team that we should definitely not let you go, that you're just having a rough patch and we should continue investing in you. So, this should be challenging. This should be a challenging goal, but attainable, something you could possibly do, but it should be pretty impressive. We need to see something big in order to consider keeping you on the team. On piece of paper number 2, I'd like you to write out everything that you would need from me and the leadership team to help you hit this goal. Everything that you think you could need. Piece of paper number 3, I'd like you to write out some type of reward that was reasonable that we should reward you with if you hit this goal, in addition to keeping you on the team. And piece of paper number 4, I'd like you to write out, what do you think the consequence should be if you fail to hit this goal? So you create the goal, you tell us everything you need, and you still fail to hit it. What should the consequence of failing to hit that goal be? So the idea here is that this is an extension of that coaching methodology, right? So you're putting all of the ball is in their court, so to speak. You're giving them autonomy over the whole process. They control their destiny. And the good news is that I've actually never had to use this. I know leaders who have. That most people will just self-terminate. So let's say they set a goal that I'm going to achieve X in the next 10 days, and they've told you everything that you need or that they need from you to achieve that goal, and they still fail to hit the goal, despite the fact that you did give them everything that they need, the person's going to write out on a piece of paper, I should quit because I'm not in the right role. I set the goal. You gave me everything that I needed. I should quit. So now you don't have to fire anybody. They will self-terminate. And if you have the right framing, you can frame it as a positive even at that point to say, look, you might just not be in the right role, and that's okay. Based on your strengths, I think this is the type of job that you could be really effective at. And so maybe you could help them find a job in that field and you can build that goodwill. But this is a way to let them gracefully leave your team in a way that's beneficial to you and the team, and where there's no hard feelings, and where they might even feel deeply cared for as a result of the interaction. And if you handle it really well, I mean, this person might end up becoming a referral partner for you, where even they realize, like, I just wasn't the right fit for that team, but boy, did I feel cared for by my manager and the leadership team. They cared about me so much. They gave me every chance, all this coaching. They helped me find another job. You should go work for them. They're amazing. That's how powerful that approach can be.